You're listening to the Seen and Solved podcast, brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. Better results, less chemistry.
So welcome to this edition of Seen and Solved. I'm your host, Tim Pennington. Today we're being joined by Stewart Holloway, the Senior Account Manager at Hubbard-Hall. And Stewart, I know you're a guy who is, most times than not, you can find you in a shop tank side, and I'm going to just guess that you're probably in a shop about to go tank side. Am I right?
You're correct. Good guess.
And I guess that's the best way to solve it sometimes, is go put eyes on it, look, see what's going on, and things like that sometimes, I'm sure.
That's true. Yeah, you get a lot more direct information that way, I think, and you don't lose anything in translation between other involved, and it's a good way to go for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, their old football coach used to say, I see better than I hear. So I guess you got to go there and see it for yourself with that. So let's talk about, today I want to talk about a specific problem and kind of have you walk me through, how you all were able to solve it, how it went about. So let's talk about just a recent problem that you've had that you were called into. Can you kind of go into some detail about it without giving it away, but just kind of tell us what was perplexing?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, this was a project that involved a problem with one particular plating line with the pretreatment and cleaning. 4 lines total, zinc and zinc alloys. And this one particular line, they were coming up way short of the expected cleaner life versus the other 3 lines. So we were contacted. Actually, Jason Potts was the first POC with this project, as he and the owners of this opportunity have a history together in a previous life. So Jason started the ball rolling and passed that torch to me, and then I kind of played quarterback and followed up, made sure that we were addressing the needs and answering all the questions and getting the right people on the right team members on Hubbard-Hall involved to bring this thing to a good conclusion.
So when you go in this particular case, I mean, you see a problem. What were some of the biggest challenges that you saw right off the bat that you're going to have to tackle and get done with this?
A couple of things. One was the amount of oil that was being introduced into this sub-cleaner solution. It was a large tank, about 1,000 gallons, so a lot of room. And then also the index speed of the rack. It was a rack line. This thing was moving. Not a lot of time to get the job done. And then just the sheer magnitude of the volume of work that these guys put out, 6 days a week, 3 shifts around the clock. So there's not a lot of room for error, a lot of just-in-time requirements, things like that. So, and they reached out for help. So it was a great opportunity for us and to get everybody involved, get the right people involved.
When you normally do these type of projects where you're out and you're trying to solve it, do you write down the steps you're going to do? Do you know in advance kind of once you define what it's going to be, what steps am I going to take? I'm sure they have to go in some type of sequential order, but what were the steps that you took to kind of get this rectified?
What we started using as a sales team, a few years ago is it's like we call it the one-page sales coach. And basically, you define the current state with the preliminary work, asking all the questions, seeing it, touching it, and then so define the current state where they are. So basically, in this instance, they were having some cleaning issues, some parts that they were not able to clean. They do a lot of automotive stampings and wire goods, general job shop stuff, but real heavy automotive. So I like to define the current state. What are you doing now? Ask those questions, get the information, get the background, concentration, temperature, time, dump cycles. Are you removing oil? Those types of things. What kind of problems are you seeing? Blisters, skip plating, corrosion protection, those types of things. So that's the first thing that we did is we made the definition of what they're doing now. And basically, that was they typically shoot for 700 hours of runtime on the cleaner, and that can be up to like a month or so. On this particular line, they were averaging around 500 hours, so short of that. And the impact of that was the cleaners are dumped and hauled off site, so they got a collection tank, and they try to keep this in sequence with the other lines, so they can get a truck in to take everything out and then do it again, next time. But with this line being, not extended, with the cleaner line being shorter than the other lines, it kind of threw that out of kilter a little bit. So the challenge was to, fix that. And first and foremost, though, is to give them a product that, in a process that was adequately pre-treating the parts so they can minimize or eliminate, that high reject rates, things like that. So that was the first thing we did. Is we defined the current state, and then we asked questions. Okay, what do you want to do? What's the future state look like in a perfect world? Okay, 700 hours, minimal rejects, predictable, stable process. So that was the future state. And then we discussed, okay, what do we got to do? Not just Hubbard-Hall, but what do you got to do, Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect? What do we got to do together to get from the current state to the future state? So we had those discussions. And then once we have that out of the way, then we call it the commitment step. Okay, you determine the mutually agreed upon success criteria. What does success look like? And that's thrown back and forth, because what you think is success, yeah, we can do that, but we can't do this part. So you negotiate all that stuff, get to a point where everybody's happy. And then last question, okay, Mr. Customer, if we're able to do that, will you give us a shot at this business?
You've got these steps. You're going through the process. By the way, what product do you recall? Do you recall what Hubbard-Hall product was decided to be used as this? Or
so it was traditional sulk electro acid pre-treat for steel. So we went with. I actually consulted with Mike Valeni, Director of Technologies. Mike. And we did a little bit of research on this oils that are impacting the situation, and came up with our Aquaease SL150 emulsifying soap cleaner. Great product, simple. You've probably heard that one before, but we went with that for the soap cleaner, and the Aquaease EL44 for the electro, and then they just kept the rest of the same.
You're going through this process, right? You've agreed, you've got the commitment in hand. As you're doing this, I guess you have to kind of go back to them to say, I guess, to make some decisions on things, right? Talk me through that. How easy to do that, or how difficult is it to do that, and to get those, and what were some of the decisions that had to be made?
I mean, it was pretty simple, straightforward, but there were some things that were, I'll call it a little bit of a challenge, and that was the concentration of the cleaner concentration that they were used to running at. And we wanted to keep apples to apples as best as we could. So they ran around 7.5% by volume liquid cleaners, which some people run lower than that, some run higher than that, but you got to pick a starting point and figure out what works. So we started there at that 7.5%, a little bit reluctantly, because I'd rather start high, and then you want to hit that home run right off the bat, and then make the modifications and tweak the system as you go. So that was some of the challenge, and then also the amount of oil that was present, like I said, and the prospect, they helped us out and themselves out by making some modifications to a weir system, which allowed for better oil removal. So that was those were the two challenges I say that were most difficult to overcome. That, and they really wanted this to work, because they were somewhat struggling, and higher disposal costs, things like that. Right. So, and downtime, labor, with tank cleanouts and things like that. So
it's great when they're amenable to everything you're suggesting, right? What do you do sometimes when you get some pushback, or there's obstacles to getting what you're trying to do implemented? And where does that plan B come in with that, or does it?
Oh yeah, that never happens. Never. But no, it does. What we do in that case is, gather data and rely on other colleagues and other success stories, because there's a lot of similarities in our business. Some things stand out, and a lot of it is just vanilla. But you want to get the right people involved for sure, and get buy-in from the customer, and you got to earn some credibility and trust right away. You want to start off on a good foot, and I think we did that with with the relationship that Jason has with these guys. And Jason's an awesome guy. He does a great job for Hubbard-Hall. I'm glad he's on our team. But I think just building trust and credibility.
Most people are very averse to changing anything, right? I mean, if it's worked, it's worked. We've done it for years. This is where we got to go. Until they really get up to that point where you can't keep doing it this way. You've got to kind of make a change, or make just a slight change. Maybe it's even a slight change. And it really results in a very big improvement sometimes, right? I mean, but people just don't want to change a lot, do they?
No, that's we're change adverse by nature. But if you can substantiate your message with facts that's supported with data,
can't beat that.
It's kind of hard to beat. If you're still getting beat up on those things, then maybe you got to rethink. Okay, is this the type of opportunity that we want to engage with, or not? Or sometimes you walk away.
Sometimes you got to do that. Let's talk about the results. So you had the Aquaease, right? You had the product you were putting in there. Talk about a little bit about the results you were getting. And you said they were at 700 hours before. How did it all turn out for them?
The goal was 700 hours. And that's what they were averaging on the other three lines. On this particular line, they were around 400 to 500. They set the mark for us at 500 hours, which they would hit that sometimes with the current cleaner, but most often than not, they weren't hitting that. That was the success criteria right there. So we implemented the cleaner, the SL150 EL44, and we the first go around we hit about just under 600 hours, I think, but they cut the trial short because that dump cycle with the tanker coming in to pump everything out, they wanted to get rid of all the cleaner. So we were still going strong. But they cut it a little bit short so they could dispose of all the spent chemistries at one time. So the part of the success criteria, also, I didn't state this earlier, was to repeat the trial 3 times. And if we were good 3 times, then the commitment agreement was that they would implement our solution throughout the plant. Subsequent, the 2 other trials, we exceeded 700 hours of operation. And just checked in with these guys recently, and they told me that they're now able to go about 1,300 hours between dumps.
Wow.
And this was the workhorse land. A lot of nasty soils and oils and stuff. So it's kind of the benchmark.
You were probably Employee of the Year at that firm there, so that's great results to get on that. You go from problem to problem to problem sometimes, right? Different facilities, different things. Anything, like you said, you learned from this particular project that you personally learned from it that really helps you going forward, or does that happen sometimes when you kind of learn as you go along? I know you're giving answers a lot, but you kind of gain from that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when the day that you quit learning, I think you got to look in the mirror and say, do I want to do this anymore, or do I need to be doing something else, or I got to change something? So, we're all sponges, and knowledge is power. So, I think a big takeaway from this was to listen to the customer, and ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions and listen. And when you get the customer talking or prospect talking, it's time to close your mouth and just listen. And if you're not clear on something, ask another question, a clarifying question. Make sure that you've got the picture and have defined what the current state is and what their needs are and what they're expecting of you. And if you can't meet those expectations, then you got to negotiate and reach some common ground. And then I think you've got a good chance. And I got all the confidence in the world in Hubbard-Hall and our technical team and our leadership and the ability to solve people's problems. I mean, we do it all the time.
That's great. Yeah. I know you got to get back out to the tank fix that problem. Stewart, we appreciate you joining us on Seen and Solved, and don't be a stranger. We hope to have you back very, very soon with another one of your Tales from the Tank Side. That'll be it. That's going to be your title of your program, Tales from the Tank Side. All right. Thank you, Stewart. Appreciate it.
All right, Tim. Thank you. Thanks for having me. We'll see you.
Thanks for listening to Seen and Solved by Hubbard-Hall. For more episodes, visit hubbardhall.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, and join us on social media. Produced by Aquaease.